Hi, everybody. We're back with another Instagram Live, and I'm going to be interviewing and talking to Sydney Yeager today about her current exhibition, Through the Prism of a Day. And I'm going to just tour you around the gallery first. These are oil and linen. And Sydney made all this work in the last few months. And I'm going to send an invitation out to Sydney for her to join us. Hi, Jill. This one's called On the Edge of the Day. Hey, Sydney.
Here, yeah.
You made it.
Yay.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Kevin?
I'm good. I'm excited.
I'm a technophobe, so.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm a technophobe, and so you know that now.
We're in now. Now it's easy. Now it's just a conversation.
Excellent.
I'm excited to talk to you. Thanks for doing this with me.
I'm just thrilled to be here and thrilled to be part of an exciting new venture.
Yeah. Well, I'll just introduce myself first. I'm Kevin Ivester. I'm the owner of Ivester Contemporary, and I'm talking with Sydney Yeager about her solo show in the main exhibition space called Through the Prism of a Day. Sydney, would you just mind introducing yourself and talking to us about what you do?
Hi, I'm Sydney Yeager. I've lived in Austin for most of my adult life, which has been a while. And I spend about, I'd say 50% of my time in Elgin, Texas, where I have my studio. So I've been around a while, so maybe I know some of you.
Yeah. And could you just first maybe describe your work? What type of work do you do?
Well, I'm a painter. I'm absolutely in love with the medium. I sort of hesitate to attach an ism to this. I would say abstraction would be.
Yeah, I just so. Hey, Juan. And could you? So the title of the show is called Through the Prism of a Day. Where did you get that title?
Well, you should know. Actually, it's a kind of a long story. I was, quite frankly, struggling a little bit. Like everyone, I've been cooped up and really not had a lot of stimulation for the last year. And I felt I'd written an artist's statement, which I thought was kind of fuzzy around the edges. And I just was feeling a little bit at sea until I found this wonderful essay by Michael Cunningham about the novel, Virginia Woolf's wonderful novel, Mrs. Dalloway, which I sent to Kevin, along with a very mundane title that I had picked out. And Kevin was like, I think we can do better. And he came upon the wonderful title, Through the Prism of a Day, which I thought was perfectly appropriate. So thank you, Kevin, for helping me out with that title.
Well, I pulled that from some synopsis somebody else wrote about that way. So
well, we're not writers, though.
Right.
that's not our job description.
Right. So I'm really liking the titles that you have for your paintings, and I know that you struggle with painting titles, but you know, I think some of them are great. These three are called The Hours. They're The Hours 1, 2, and 3, and they're giant paintings, 72 by 48. We know where that title comes from. It comes from a book, but where do some of your other titles come from? For instance, This is the Present Moment, On the Edge of the Day, Rogue Dandelion.
Well, a lot of them, I do work hard on titles. I try to make the title fit the painting visually, and I try to make I try to make it mysterious enough so that the viewer has a little room to interpret, and so but not completely obscure the painting and obfuscate the meaning. So I turn often to literature, as I do with sort of crystallizing my ability to articulate what my intent is. Sometimes literature is kind of the crystallizing moment. It's like I watch the wheel go on the computer screen for a while, and all of a sudden things come into focus. So
it clicked.
I think that literature often helps me to articulate my thoughts, which is the case here.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you before, I'm visual omnivore. I love art. I look at art everywhere I go and kind of consume it, sort of heedlessly. So it is interesting that when it comes time to kind of articulate what I'm about, it's literature that I turn to.
Yeah. I appreciate that you always come into the gallery to see every show that I have.
Well, thank you. They are all beautiful, so I'm happy to be there.
So is there a specific type of literature that you like?
No.
No, everything.
Yes, I'm a fiction reader. I love novels. I guess I'm fairly selective about what I read. I do want to read well-written literature, but I do like fiction. I am a fiction reader.
Yeah. So the titles oftentimes, like you said, come from literature, but do you feel like while you're working or before you're working, you've developed this concept for your work, this painting, before you've made it, or do the meanings from your paintings sort of come out of the process?
I'm a little the other way. I think there are many artists who start with an idea and then find the best way to present it visually. I kind of come at things from the other end. I think I typically work, and I have to respect that process, really, because often if I try to limit myself too much in advance, then the painting is a failure.
Yeah.
So I work, and then I try to find out what it was that I was about. So typically the titles come at the end, and really it takes me to the end of a body of work to kind of figure out what I was doing.
Yeah.
So more of a process. I'm more, I guess, involved with process than I am with.
So what sort of drives you?
Well, I just adore paint. Yeah. I like to smell it. I like to feel it. If I could put hands, I just adore the whole process of paint and the texture, the feel, the smell, the color. It's just seductive. And especially oil paint. I like other media. I like to draw. I like mark making. I like the intensity of making a mark on a white piece of paper or on a litho stone, but in the end, it's paint that seduces me.
Yeah. Well, it's clear your love for paint comes across, because every single stroke, I mean, I can see in a lot of these too, they come across at first glance as these giant brush strokes with maybe giant brushes, but I can see that in certain areas you're really like celebrating these little moments with highlights and lowlights and going back into strokes. And what are the sizes of your brushes?
Well, I do work with horrible brushes. I buy them at the hardware store. I buy chip brushes, which are the kind that you're supposed to throw away after you use them once.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I don't. I keep them, foolishly keep them and clean them and use them, reuse these $5 chip brushes, which many artists use amazingly brushes and take care of them by washing them with hair conditioner, but I'm not one of those. I'm very careless with my brushes, and the bigger and I've even tried to buy nicer wide brushes. They don't do the same thing for me for some reason. I don't know exactly why that is, but they don't. They're just a little bit too slick and smooth, and I really want that sort of rough texture of the cheap portable brushes.
You call them chip brushes?
I'll chip.
chip brush.
And they're, you know, they're in a little box at the hardware store on the bottom row.
Wow.
They cost like, you know, $3.
They've got like the metal collars around them.
Metal collar, and they have a raw wood handle. They don't even paint the handles of them. They're raw
Wow.
wood. But they're here brushes. I'm perfectly happy with those. In fact, as I said, I've tried more fancier brushes. They don't quite do the same.
Yeah. Well, they work for you.
Yeah, they do. I mean, as far as I know, as far as I can tell.
And the other thing I'm so curious about, you know, because these are such giant paintings, you know, again, for scale, this is a 20-foot wall here that these 3 paintings are sitting on. I can't help but imagine you moving in front of these canvases while you're painting.
Well, it's true that I'm not very tall, so I have a little board propped up on cans, and I can move the paintings down to the floor and move them back up on that little board for different heights. But it's a stretch. But it's kind of how I really work better with my arm and from my shoulder than I do from. That's always been the case for me, and I've always worked pretty big.
So you're not quite dancing in front of these. You're really moving your arms.
It's not a dance movement, I don't think, no.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes with these particular paintings, the surface is quite wet within the hours, particularly the 2 pieces on either end. The surface is quite wet, and sometimes I feel like the paint is sort of pulling me along as opposed to me pushing it, because it's a very fast movement.
Wow.
Which I want to keep that movement to be apparently fast. When it slows down, it's when I get into trouble.
It does feel like that. I mean, your work feels very fluid, and it comes across as very easy, which I know that it's not. But it feels so right.
Oh, well, thank you, Kevin. That's a nice compliment.
And
I like it.
I've got a question here for you too. Somebody asked, let's see, ACC Art Department asked you, how do you keep the chip brushes from shedding bristles?
Sometimes I don't worry about it. I sort of pick it out. They do shed sometimes.
Yeah.
But I kind of, I don't notice that as a terrible problem, although I've recommended it to my students, and they have complained that their brushes shed. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I just use them so vigorously with brushes before.
Well, your canvases are so textured too. So if there are any bristles in there, there's maybe one or something.
Oh, look, I think I see one. Yeah.
Yeah, that it all works well, and it might remind the viewer that this is a painting. This is handmade.
Exactly. It is. I hope for the hand to be apparent.
Yeah. Well, I just mostly wanted to check in, Sydney, and say hello and introduce your artwork to, Instagram. And this show is on view until April 3rd. So it's gonna be a fast show.
Well, I hope friends can pop in and see it before. And thank you, Kevin, so much. It's a great pleasure to show with you in your beautiful face.
Absolutely, it's an honor to have you.
Well, I want to compliment you on your vision. I've been impressed with the things I've heard you say to me. So, on many of your posts where with the Austin Art Talk was a nice interview. I hope you all haven't watched that post, or listened to the Austin Art Talk with Kevin. I hope you do.
Thank you.
Articulating your own vision.
Thank you. And so through the prism of the day, this is a solo show. It'll be on view till April 3rd, and we're still doing masks. I appreciate appointments, but I hope that everybody watching can make an appointment and come and see Sydney's work before it ends. It's only a few more weeks. I'll give you one more tour around the gallery, a quick pan. and then we'll say goodbye. Thank you, Sydney.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been fun.
Yeah. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.